One of the common concerns for those exploring a vegan or plant-based diet is, how do I get enough protein? And oftentimes tofu or other soy-based products are the offered solution to enough protein. But what if you have a soy protein allergy, as does my son? You can't consume the soy protein products without a significant reaction. But there are alternatives that are non-soy based tofus. A best known form of soy-free tofu is called Burmese tofu. It's a tofu that is made out of chickpea flour. But this type of tofu has evolved into other types of tofu made out of different beans, such as black beans or lentils or even fava beans. And it's also evolved into using seeds to create such non-soy tofus. Seeds such as pumpkin seeds and hemp seeds. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a quick and easy red lentil tofu. I'm also going to show you some commercially available soy-free tofu options that you can buy, hopefully at your local grocery store. And then the last part of the video, I'm going to show you how to make a classic Chinese dish called Ma Po Tofu. Now this dish traditionally uses soy protein-based tofu and ground pork, but I'm going to convert it into a gluten-free, soy-free, and vegan recipe for you to make at home. Let's start off by making a quick and easy red lentil tofu. So traditional soy-based tofu is made by taking dried soybeans and making that into a soy milk, and then certain agents are added to the milk to curdle it so that the curds can be removed and put into a tofu press into blocks of tofu. This red lentil tofu is not that complicated, and it's simply taking the split red lentils and putting it in hot water for a period of time, and then blending it all together and heating it over the stove and putting it into a mold. So the end result is that you have the entirety of the red lentil bean within this tofu. And there's no need to press it like you do with traditional tofu to remove any of the liquids. But let's get on to this recipe. To make the red lentil tofu, you need 1 cup of split red lentils, 3 cups of boiling water, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Pour the lentils into a blender. Add the salt if you want. Add the boiling water to the lentils, and then let this sit for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, put a lid on the blender and start blending on low, and then increase the speed to start blending on high. Blend the mixture until it liquefies, and then pour that mixture into a pot over the stove. Bring the lentil mixture to a boil and then turn it down to medium heat and start whisking. Whisk it for about 5 minutes. You want to continuously scrape off any bits that start sticking to the bottom of the pan. The mixture will start to thicken, but continue to whisk it for the remainder of the 5 minutes. Then add it to a container or mold large enough to hold the contents. It's not necessary to oil the container. Using the back of a wet spoon, smooth out the top of the mixture in the container. Then allow the mixture to cool, and then put a lid on the top and place it in the fridge for a minimum of 2 hours, preferably overnight, so that you can allow the tofu to firm up. As you can see, this tofu comes out into a block, and it easily comes out of the container. So you can cut this up just like you can blocks of tofu. You could slice it into thin slices such as this, or you could cut it into blocks if you prefer, or cubes rather. This is quite a large cube, but as you can see, it's quite firm and it's somewhat spongy inside. When it cooks up, it can get a nice crisp exterior, particularly if you do it in the oven or air fryer, but it has a creamy center. So I cut up some of this tofu into cubes, and then the other I'm saving as a block form so I can cut into slices for a separate recipe. I won't go into any recipes for red lentil tofu in this video. If you do want to see that in another video, please leave a comment below and let me know. And if you happen to have any recipes that you like using red lentil tofu, let me know. Two companies that offer soy-free tofu options are Foodies and Big Mountain Foods. PomFu by Foodies is a pumpkin seed-based tofu that is gluten-free and vegan. This tofu comes in two flavors, original and shoyu. They also have other products such as chorizo, sausage crumbles, a breakfast scramble, and a sloppy joe mix, all made with the PomFu tofu. It has a firm texture, similar to extra firm tofu, and it has a nice mild and nutty flavor. It does absorb flavors well from sauces, so you can use it as you would traditional tofu. Big Mountain Foods offers a tofu that's made from fava beans, and it's also gluten-free and vegan. In addition to the plain tofu, they have a smoked and a baked sriracha flavor. They also provide a gluten-free and soy-free stuffed plant roast that looks great for the holiday season. I haven't tried it yet, but maybe I'll give it a try in another video. But if you've tried it, let me know in the comments what you think. Let's move on to making a recipe with one of these soy-free tofu options. I'm going to pick the fava bean option, and I'm going to make a traditional classic Chinese dish called Ma Po Tofu. It's actually a Szechuan dish, and traditionally it's made with soy-based protein, tofu, and ground pork. But what I'm going to do, in addition to substituting the tofu, I'm going to substitute the pork with ground walnuts and mushrooms. Now, another option that you can choose is to use one of the ground meat alternatives, such as Abbott's or Impossible or the Beyond ground meat options. But I'm going to stick with the mushroom and the walnut mixture. It's something I enjoy. I like the simple ingredients, and I love the taste and the texture. To make the Ma Po tofu, you're going to need 1 block of the Big Mountain Foods fava bean tofu, and you're also going to need, I used 1 container of sliced shiitake mushrooms. I think it was about 5 ounces. And then I used a half a cup of walnuts. In place of this, you can use something like Abbott's ground beef crumbles. I think that comes in a 10-ounce amount. You also need 3 tablespoons of sesame oil, 2 teaspoons of what's called Shaoxing rice wine, but I didn't have that, so I used mirin. You also need cornstarch and fresh ginger, about 1 tablespoon, and fresh garlic that's minced, I would say about 1 tablespoon's worth, and then about 2 cups of vegetable broth, and about 1 tablespoon of gluten-free soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of hot chili oil with peppers. What I used is chili crisps. And then you also need about 1/2 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of an unusual spice called Szechuan peppercorns. I'll comment on these peppercorns in a minute. You'll also need green onions and salt and pepper. Szechuan peppercorns are difficult to find. I tried several local grocery stores and didn't find them, but then I did find them at a local Asian grocery store. It's a key ingredient to Ma Po tofu. It's also known as a numbing peppercorn because it does produce a numbing sensation. Rinse and dry the shiitake mushrooms, and then using a food processor, pulse them until they become coarsely ground. Remove the mushrooms and place them in a bowl, and then add the walnuts to the food processor and pulse them until coarsely ground. Add the walnuts to the mushrooms in the bowl and then just mix them together. Add about 1 tablespoon of sesame oil to the mushrooms and walnuts. Add 2 teaspoons of rice wine to the bowl. In my case, I used mirin. Then add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Then add 1 teaspoon of cornstarch and mix all of the ingredients together. Grate about 1 tablespoon's worth of the fresh ginger. Peel and dice about 1 tablespoon's worth of garlic. Add 2 tablespoons of sesame oil to a wok or large skillet over the stove, and then add the mushroom and walnut mixture and heat that for about 5 minutes. You want it to start slightly turning brown and crispy. Remove the mushroom and walnut mixture and place it back into the originally used bowl. Then add the ginger and garlic to the heated wok and stir this around to cook for about 1 minute, but not too long because you don't want them to burn. Then add 2 cups of vegetable broth to the wok, and then also add 1 tablespoon of gluten-free soy sauce and give this a stir to combine. I turned off the heat at this point, and then I cut up my tofu into cubes. I also ground up 1/2 teaspoon's worth of the Szechuan peppercorns. I then brought the walnut, mushroom, and broth mixture to a boil, and I added the cubed tofu as well as 2 tablespoons of the chili crisps, and then I finished with adding the Szechuan peppercorns. I mixed this all together and then brought it to a low boil, but turned it down to allow it to simmer, and I simmered and stirred it occasionally for about 6 minutes. In the meantime, I also mixed together 2 tablespoons of water with 1 tablespoon of cornstarch and stirred that together, and then I added it to the Ma Po Tofu mixture and stirred it in, and I allowed it to cook for about 2 to 3 minutes so that it thickened. I served the Ma Po Tofu on a bed of sushi rice, and I topped it with more chili crisps and some sliced green onions. This dish is the epitome of comfort food. The tofu soaks up the rich, warm umami flavors, and it has a nice texture from the walnuts and the mushrooms and the chili crisps. Then there's a subtle hint of heat from the Szechuan peppercorns. This dish is proof that those with soy intolerances or allergies can enjoy a delicious tofu-based meal. Let me know in the comments if you try any of these recipes or products. And if I haven't mentioned a particular soy-free tofu or recipe, let me know as well. And as I state in every video, if you have a favorite recipe that you would love converted into a gluten-free and vegan recipe, let me know in the comments because I welcome that challenge.